Good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's hearing. We're going to begin by hearing from another person who was in the tower at the time of the fire, and then we shall read some of the statements of other people who were also there. So, yes, Mr. Miller.
Mr. Chairman, good morning. Before we call our next witness, I just want to say something. On Monday, the 8th of October, last week, I explained that we could not, as we had planned, read certain statements from bereaved survivor and resident witnesses into the record for the time being. And I said I would provide an update as soon as possible. Yes. I can now do that. The reason for the pause was that a number of RLRs made representations about the redaction of personal data from BSRs' statements. That only occurred after the inquiry had begun to call BSR evidence. We were rather taken by surprise by these representations, given that cross-disclosure of the statements from BSR witnesses had been ongoing for some months, and the extent and the nature of the inquiry's redactions would have been self-evident to the RLRs. Last week's pause in reading in the further BSR witness statements was necessary while the inquiry considered the representations that had been made. We've now done that. We've responded in writing to the RLR's concerns, and in certain cases, we have made further redactions of material that witnesses originally wished to disclose, or else we've removed redactions of material which they now wish to disclose. We've allowed an appropriate period of time for the relevant RLRs to respond to the inquiry's proposed course of action. In the absence of any further representation to date, the inquiry will now resume its programme of putting into the record witness statements from BSR witnesses who are not being called to give oral evidence. As I hope was clear from the approach that we adopted, we intend to do this in a manner which gives some context around the oral evidence which you are hearing.
Good.
So I hope that's clear.
Yes, thank you very much indeed.
I'll now turn over to Mr. Rawat, who will call our next witness.
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Rawat.
Good morning, sir. May I call Rosemary Oyewole?
I swear by Almighty God
I swear by Almighty God
that the evidence I shall give
that the evidence I shall give
shall be the truth,
shall be the truth,
the whole truth, and nothing but the
and
truth.
nothing but the truth.
Good. Thank you very much. I'd like to sit down and make yourself comfortable. Right? Yes, Mr. Rawat.
Thank you, sir. Can you give the inquiry your full name, please?
Yeah, my name is Rosemary Oyewole.
Thank you very much for coming to give evidence today. Your continued assistance is very much appreciated by the inquiry. Before coming here, you confirmed that you were willing to give evidence just in relation to phase 1 of the inquiry's proceedings. And that means that I won't be asking you questions today about phase 2 issues, but my questions rather will focus on the night of the fire. I recognise that asking you to relive the events of the fire will be difficult. And so if you need a break at any time, please just say so. We can stop. There is absolutely no rush. My aim is to keep my questions short and simple. If, however, I ask a question that you don't understand, then please don't hesitate to stop me and I'll put the question in a different way. Could we just go through the formality of putting your statement into the record, Ms. Oyewole? It's at IWS 50852, and if we could have the first page of that. What you'll see coming up on the screen that's on your desk is the first page of your statement that you made specifically for the inquiry. If you're more comfortable with paper, you'll see that there's a bundle just in front of you on the desk, and it's at tab 1 if you need it.
Okay.
Thank you. Could we go, please, to page 28 of the statement? See that the last paragraph we see begins, I believe that the facts stated in this witness statement are true. The witness statement is dated the 20th of May 2018, and we can see a signature there. Can you confirm that that's your signature?
That's my signature.
Have you had an opportunity to go through the statement recently?
I have.
And can you confirm that the contents of the statement are true?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, just for the record, there are no exhibits accompanying the statement.
Right. Thank you.
We start, please, just with a little bit of background. It's right, isn't it, that you moved into flat 113 in Grenfell Tower in about June 2013?
Yes.
And in June 2017, who was living in the flat with you?
Just myself and my partner and my daughter.
And how old was your daughter at that time?
She was 4.
And the flat was on the 14th floor, wasn't it?
Yes.
How many bedrooms did it have?
2 bedrooms.
And by June 2017, is it right that you'd been teaching science at a secondary school level for some 3 years?
Yes.
And were you working full-time?
Yeah, full time.
Could we please put up MET 30125993, please? Page 12. Thank you. Ms. Oyewole, if I could just explain, this is a layout plan of the 4th floor of the tower. The same arrangements apply to the floors above the 4th floor, and that includes the floor that your flat was on. So it gives us a layout of each floor. I want to ask you, just using this, some questions about your neighbours who also lived on the 14th floor, if I may. We can see that flat 1, which would be flat 111 if we were on the 14th floor, we know that that was occupied by Dennis Murphy. In your statement, you described him as a kind and gentle man, and you explained that you only learnt his surname after the fire. How well did you know Dennis Murphy before the fire?
I knew Dennis. I remember the first day I moved in, I came to come and sort of view the place, and I met him in the lift. We went to the 14th floor together. So he was one of the first people, I'd say, that I met, that he knew I was going to be living there. So we became friendly from the first day I moved in, really.
And so you described him that you were on neighbourly terms with him?
Yes.
In flat 112, we know was Omar Al-Hajj Ali and his brother Muhammad. How well did you know them before the fire?
Not very well.
But did you know them to say hello to?
Yeah, I just met them just maybe a couple of months before the fire, maybe 6 months before the fire, 5 months before the fire.
And in flat 115 was Zainab Dean and her son. How well did you know them?
I'd say I knew her quite well.
Did she move into the building after you had been there?
After it, yeah.
And how long had she been living there before?
I'd say about maybe a year.
So would it be fair to describe your relations with those who are living on the 14th floor as being that of neighbours rather than friends?
Yes.
If we could expand now the bottom corner, flat 3, please. This would match, or should match, the layout of your home in flat 113. And we can see that it had 2 bedrooms. First question, broadly, does that match the layout of your flat?
Yes.
We see that it has 2 bedrooms. Can you tell us which bedroom was yours and which was used by your daughter?
Yeah, the first one. Do you want to show you on that?
Yes, do you want to do it
Yes,
up on
would you like to get up and show us?
This was our bedroom, and this is my daughter's bedroom.
Thank you.
And so the bedroom closest to the lounge was the one that your daughter occupied,
Yes.
and you occupied the other bedroom with your partner. We can see that the front door, we can see the front door on the plan, and just beyond it in the communal area, we can see the words hydrant. When you go into the flat, just to the left there is a space sort of opposite the bathroom. Can you tell us what that space was for?
Opposite the bathroom?
Yes, if you go in, if I come in through the front door, on my left there appears to be a doorway that leads into a space.
Oh, sorry. That was like a big closet thing that we turned into like a little playroom.
So there's sort of a large storage area that you used as a playroom.
Yeah.
If we were to assume that all the internal doors were open, and the front door was also open, and if a person was then standing at the front door looking into your home, what rooms could they see into?
You could see into our bedroom.
What about your daughter's bedroom?
No.
What about the lounge?
No.
So if that person standing at the front door wanted to move to look inside your daughter's bedroom, would they have to come in and go into the hallway?
Yes.
And if we see there on there's the word hall just on the plan. If someone was standing at that point, from that point, could they look into your daughter's bedroom and then also begin to look into your lounge?
From that point, they could see into my daughter's bedroom, but not into the lounge.
So where would you have to go to look into the lounge?
You'd have to walk past the toilet, and so you'd have to be...
Yeah.
Because there's the doors for the lounge as well.
So you'd have to walk past the toilet and be standing on the edge looking into the lounge at all. And in June 2017, did your lounge have a door on it?
Yes.
And we see that on this plan, one thing that isn't clear is whether there was a partition between the kitchen and the lounge. But were there any doors between kitchen and lounge?
Yes.
What kind of door was that?
Sliding doors.
So once you were in the lounge to get into the kitchen, you'd go through straight through a sliding door. Is that
Yes.
right? Just want to ask a couple of general questions about the condition of your flat and the floor as at June 2017. If I take you back to your statement, we're going to jump around the statement a little, but if we go to page 21, so IWS 852, page 21, please, and just expand for us the two paragraphs that come under the subheading doors. What you say in this part of your statement is that the front door was replaced during the renovations of the tower, and you've described the replacement door as thicker and heavier, with a draft excluder at the bottom and a letterbox which would automatically snap shut. Can I just clarify one detail with you, please? Did your front door have an automatic closing mechanism on it?
Yes.
And was that working in June 2017?
Yes.
One other point that you make in your statement is about the stairs. And we know that there's one stairwell in the tower, and you could access it via a door on each floor. One of the things you say is that you used the stairs to go up one floor to visit a friend who lived in flat 126. And so that would mean you're leaving your floor via the door on to the stairwell, going up 2 flights, and then accessing the next level up, wouldn't it? Did the door from floor 14, your floor, into the stairwell have a door closer on it?
Yes.
And was that working at the time of the fire?
Yes.
Now, what you say in your statement is that when you went up to the next floor, and it's your friend Aziza who lived in flat 126, isn't it?
Yeah.
So you're going up, the door that you would then use to get onto the 15th floor wasn't working.
No, it wasn't.
Can you just tell us in what way it wasn't working, please?
Whenever I would go from the stairs to go into that door, the door would already be ajar. So I'd have to pull it open and then go in. And then, but I remember thinking one day, like, what? I remember trying to push it shut, but it was the automatic door closer something was wrong with it. So it was quite tight. I don't know. It just wouldn't. It was hard to close the door basically, so it just stayed open.
And when you say ajar, there was actually a gap.
Yeah.
Through which you could look into the communal hallway of floor 15.
Yeah.
So, before the fire itself, when was the last time that you'd used that door to visit Aziza?
Maybe 3 months before the fire.
What I'd like to do now is just, I want to show you a photograph taken inside the tower and after the fire. And Mr. Chairman, it's a photograph that we've seen before. It's that of the fire safety notice. So
Yes.
I think everyone here is aware of that image. So it's BLA 402416, please. If I could explain, please, Miss Oyewole. It's a fire safety notice that was sighted between the lifts. And this notice, and this photograph was taken of the notice that was sighted for the lifts at floor 3. Do you remember seeing a notice like this between the lifts on the ground floor?
Possibly, but I wouldn't have taken much notice of it.
Do you remember seeing a notice like that on the lifts that were on your floor?
Yes.
If we look at the top of it, what it says is there is a stay put policy for residents unless the fire is in or affecting your flat. Did that phrase stay put mean anything to you before the 14th of June of 2017?
I've never seen that on there. I've never read that on that sign before.
So it wasn't something that had registered with you at all?
No.
Aside from this notice, were you aware of any information from any organisation or individual about what you should do if there was a fire in Grenfell Tower?
Well, within my profession, whenever we have lots of fire drills, and whenever we have a fire drill, it's always, I'm the one in control saying to students, leave your things and off we go. So it's always registered in my mind that whenever there's a fire, we're off. I'm not taking anything with me, I'm just leaving the building.
And was that something that influenced what you did on the night of the fire?
Yes.
Can we turn now, please, to the events of that night, and let's take you back to your statement. IWS 852, page 5, please, and can we look at paragraphs 13 to 14? I won't read them out, but I'll summarise them for you. You've explained in these paragraphs that we've got up on the screen that on the 13th of June you collected your daughter from the childminder and then you came home. And you thought you got home between 5 and 5:30 p.m. and then your partner got back a little bit later. When you got back that evening, were the lights working in the communal area?
Yes.
So you have a clear recollection that they were on?
Yes.
You say that you watched TV and then went to bed at about 11:30 p.m. And if we pick up the first line of paragraph 14, You say before we went to bed we made sure the windows in the flat were open. Did you leave every window open? Do you remember?
No, not every window.
So which windows had been left open at that time?
Definitely the one in the kitchen and the one in our bedroom and possibly my daughter's bedroom.
So doing the best you can, the windows in the living room might have been closed.
Yes.
We could look on the same page, please, at paragraphs 15 to 16. You begin paragraph 15 by saying that your partner woke you up at about 1:30 a.m. How are you able to estimate that time?
Timings.
I think we all appreciate that timings can be difficult. Is it a case of you working back in your mind
Yes.
to a time?
Yes.
And that's doing the best you can, that it was about 1:30 a.m.?
Yeah.
You've said that what you did then was you went to a window and you could hear people outside shouting. And then after that, you went to the front door, and I'll ask you some questions about that in a moment. Do you remember which window you would have gone to? Would it have been the kitchen window?
No.
So which window did you go to can you identify the window from which you heard people shouting outside?
Our bedroom window.
What you say is that your partner went into action mode and you then went to the front door. Do you remember if you'd switched any lights on in your flat by this time?
Definitely, there would have been lights on because it was quite late, so it would have been quite dark. I remember when we woke up, it was quite dark in the room. So I'd say we probably turned on the bedroom light and then the corridor light, the hallway light.
And you would have been able to, as you showed us on the plan, just step out of your bedroom window and the front door would have been not too far away.
Yes.
Sorry, yes. You would have stepped out through your bedroom door.
Yes.
And the front door would have been close by, wouldn't it?
Yes.
As you were approaching the front door, was there any smoke coming through it into the flat?
No.
And where was your daughter at the time?
Shelm was holding her.
So the three of you went to the front door together, is that right?
Yes.
What you say, and it's the last sentence, is that your partner opened the door and we were instantly hit with thick, stinking, heavy smoke. Did your partner go out through the front door? Do you
Yes.
remember?
No, sorry, the first time, no, we just closed the door. Closed the door.
So
Close the
it's
back.
just if we can just get the detail, please. You opened the door, saw the smoke, and then closed it.
Yes.
When you saw this smoke that you describe in paragraph 16, were you able to see through it at all?
No.
Were you able to tell if the lights were on in the communal area?
No.
Does that mean no, you couldn't tell?
No, you
or-
couldn't tell. I couldn't tell if the lights were on. It was pitch black to me.
And how, taking it from floor to ceiling, how far did the smoke go?
From floor to ceiling.
And was it literally just immediately outside your door as you opened it?
Yes.
Can you say anything about the temperature in the communal area at that time?
Not at that time. It was really quick. I just opened the door, we saw the smoke, and then just closed the door back. I wasn't really taking into account the temperature or anything.
If we look, please, at the next page, IW IWS 8526, and if we could have paragraphs 17 and 17, please. What you say here is that within seconds of the first attempt, your partner walked out of the front door a second time. And you say as soon as he left the front door of the flat, he disappeared into the smoke. I could not see him. Did you keep the front door open when your partner had stepped through it?
Yeah, we all went. So it's not like he just sort of left and, you know, left me and just sort of went. The idea was that we were all going to go out of the flat. So as we got to the door and we opened the door, he left first. So he went just in front of me. And then I stood at the door. And yeah, there was smoke going inside the flat.
And this is now the second time that you've opened the front door. Can you give us any sense of what conditions were, apart from the smoke, what conditions were like in the communal area?
It's very hot. The smoke was like, it was choking, it was just, I think I would describe it as like a steam room. So like in that small space, there's just smoke everywhere. You can't see, like, you know, when it gets really, really steamy, you can't see, like you could walk in and you'd have to look hard to see someone, but this, you just couldn't see anything. So he just disappeared into the smoke.
And how long was he gone?
Probably like, I'd say like 5 seconds. It wasn't long at all, but within that time I just sort of stood there thinking, oh, you know, it was okay, he went, and I think it was a shock of it, thinking, wow, it's really smoky, and a shock that he'd actually gone in front of me. But then I thought, if I follow him and I know that I can't see where he's gone, if I go somewhere else and he comes back, does that make sense? Sort of, I didn't want us to lose each other, so I thought, I'll wait, I'll let him go, and if he goes and he doesn't come back, then at least I'll know that he's definitely gone somewhere. Then I'll go. That was what was going on in my head.
And had you, prior to opening the door, had you had a discussion about what direction you were going to go in?
No, we just knew we were going to go for the stairs. We wouldn't ever use the lift in the case of a fire.
If we look at paragraph 19, please. What you tell us at the beginning of this paragraph is that your partner then came back into the flat. Did he tell you at that time how far he'd got once he'd stepped out into the communal hallway?
No.
What did he look like when he returned?
I'd say he looked like really shocked. Like, I'd say he looked really panicked. Like, he came back and just looked really like, you know when you're attempting to do something and it's not gone to plan. And you know, I think from then I knew that there was no escape route, if that made sense. So I think I'd got that feeling of him. I didn't really spend time looking at him. I just took my daughter off him, but I saw, like, in his face that he was shocked, put it that way.
So he'd been carrying your daughter, and then you took your daughter back, and I think in your statement you say that you then had to take her to a window to get some air. Because she was gasping for breath. Can you tell us a little bit more about what effect that smoke had had on your daughter?
Yeah, I knew straight away that she'd inhaled a lot of smoke, because me standing in that doorway just for that little moment of time, I was inhaling smoke myself, but I knew it wasn't as much as how much her and her dad had inhaled. So when she came back, she was just quite frantic, and she was gasping. So my first reaction was just to grab her. I ran from the door all the way to the front room because I knew that those windows were quite wide, and I just stuck her head out of the window for her to breathe in some oxygen.
Did the smoke have any physical effect on you?
Not at that time, no. I mean, my throat was, I felt choky, but not enough to feel like there was anything wrong with me. I was just more focused on her.
So at that time, you weren't spluttering or coughing?
Coughing a little bit.
And what about your partner? Did it have any physical effect on him?
Not that I remember. I don't know. You might have, but I wasn't focused on him. He was in a different place in the flat.
And did taking your daughter to that window help her?
Yeah, definitely. I know why I did it, because I know that once you've breathed in, like, any sort of harmful smell or harmful smoke, I know it will go into your blood. So I knew that the next thing to do was to try and get some oxygen, and more oxygen down her body to try and combat that smoke that she'd breathed in.
Can we look on the same page, please, at paragraphs 20 to 21? If we pick it up just at the first sentence of paragraph 20, what you say there is that when your partner came back, the fire alarm in the flat went off. But you then say that at the end of the paragraph, I was able to fan the smoke alarm. Just so that we can be clear, is it the smoke alarm that you're referring to going off?
I don't know what went off. I just know that it was in the corridor, and I know that it went off because of the smoke that had come in. And my first reaction, the noise was just too much noise, and I think we were so disorientated from what was going on that noise was just piercing in my head. So my first reaction was just to, once I brought her back, just to fan it, stop it from making noise.
So I think you tell us in your statement that you had two alarms in the flat, one in the hallway and one in the kitchen. And it was the alarm in the hallway, in the corridor, that went off?
Yes.
So by this time, was there smoke in your flat?
Yes.
And where was that smoke?
In the hallway.
So it had come through the door when you opened it, is that right?
Yes.
Was there smoke anywhere else in your flat at that time?
No.
Again, if you can help us with timing, and tell me if you can't, but in paragraph 21, you mentioned that after that second attempt to leave, you received a call from your daughter's childminder, and you give an estimate of that time as 1:35 a.m. or 1:40 a.m. Again, can you help us with what you base that time on, please?
I would base the time on thinking that we woke up at around 1:30, and I know obviously during the night things would happen quite quickly, but I know that she was one of the first people to call me quite soon after I'd come back, like, from that first attempt. So I'd say about 5-10 minutes after she called.
And in the chronology of events, was that call from the childminder a call that you received before you rang 999?
I would say she called me first because of the conversation that we had on the phone. I didn't know at the time when she called me that the fire was supposedly on the 4th floor. I just remember her calling me and saying there's a fire, and I remember even asking her, thinking in my head, how did she know there was a fire? Because of the distance of where she lived, at which she lived. So I remember asking her, is your flat on fire? I actually remember saying that to her, is your flat on fire? Just thinking, how would you know there's a fire in my flat? So she called me first, I think.
Can I turn to the first 999 call that we can link to you? And I wanted to, using a report that's been prepared by the London Fire Brigade. It's LFB 504790, please. And can we go to page 36 in that document? So 00336, please. If I could just explain a little more. This is a report that's been prepared by the London Fire Brigade, and it sets out actions and key activities that were taken by their control room on the night of the fire. And it's useful because it contains a summary of the call that you made. And if we look at the bottom, at where it says that's it. Now, if I just take you through that. CRO Duddy takes a call with a female saying 113 hello. CRO Duddy responds with hello fire brigade. Caller sounds distressed and is speaking very quickly. A smoke alarm is sounding in the background, and the caller states that there is smoke coming through the letterbox. CRO Duddy confirms that she's calling from Grenfell Tower and asks which floor the caller is on, to which she replies the 14th. CRO Duddy advises the caller that the fire is on the 5th floor. The caller says she doesn't know what to do and she has a baby in the house. She explains that the occupants have tried to run out, but there is smoke in the corridor, and the whole corridor is black, so they have run back in the house. She also explains to CRO Duddy there is smoke. Go to the next page. Coming through the door and filling up the whole of the house. CRO Duddy advises her to block up the doors to keep the smoke out. He says he will let the crews know where she is. You've seen the transcript of that call as well, but we can see from that document and from the transcript that it has a time for the call of 1:37 and 58 seconds. Do you have a recollection now of smoke coming through your letterbox?
That was after.
After?
That was when Sean had come back in, and then we closed the door. After I'd taken Keziah to the front room, I'd come back to the hallway, and there was smoke, like a lot of smoke, and especially the smoke was coming from like any crack in the door. So the letterbox also would have had like a little crack in it, and that's where smoke was coming from, and also all the cracks within the door.
So if we break that down a little, you'd had the 2 attempts to leave through the front door. You had taken your daughter to the front room, and then when you came back after that, that's when you saw smoke still coming through.
Yeah.
And it was coming through both the letterbox and around the frame of the door? If you could just tell us just a description of your front door, as well as a letterbox. Did it have any glass in it?
No.
So it was just solid apart from the letterbox?
Yes.
I'll take you to the transcript of that call, please. LFB 40678, if we look at page 1 of that. If you could just expand the top part, event, just so that you can orientate yourself, Miss Oyewole. Can you see that there's a long reference at the top there, which ends in the letters 34300P? Just before that, there are the numbers 013758. That's the time on the transcript for the call. If we go to page 2, however, and can we just expand the bit where the operator says, where's the smoke coming from, and then the answer. Thank you. You're asked, where's the smoke coming from? And you respond, it's coming from this corridor, the whole corridor. The whole corridor was black. We tried to run out and there's smoke. We couldn't see far. So we had to run back in the house, but there's smoke coming through the door as we speak. Like now, there's smoke filling up the whole of the house. Just so that we can be clear, where you're referring here to the whole corridor, what are you referring to?
The communal corridor.
So the area where the lifts are and the bin house, etc.
Yeah.
But you're there saying that there's smoke coming through the door as we speak. There's smoke filling up the whole of the house. Which part of your flat was now being filled up with smoke?
The hallway, the bedroom, like just all that area, there was smoke. It wasn't as thick as what was outside, but there was thick black smoke coming in through the door frame, and through the letterbox.
How forcibly was that smoke coming through?
I couldn't control it. It was just coming through. It was just swarming in. It was just coming in.
And we've seen the layout of the plan of your hallway. How much of that hallway was filled with smoke?
I'd say all the way. It was at least. So the hallway.
Would it
front
help if
doors
we go
got
back to
people-
the plan?
Yes, please.
Yes. MET 30s12593, please. Page 12. And let's expand the bottom southwest corner, please. Flat 3. So you take us from the front door. When the smoke was coming in, where was it going to inside your flat?
All there, towards here and here.
So it filled up your entire hallway.
Yes.
And then you described earlier going into the bedrooms. We've got your bedroom and your daughter's.
Yeah.
Which bedrooms were being penetrated with smoke?
Towards our bedroom.
Do you have a recollection now of smoke coming into your house as you were making a 999 call?
Yes.
Now, on the timings, and that call was some 7 or 8 minutes after your partner had first woken you up. Do you remember smoke coming into your home from anywhere else at this time apart from through the front door?
No.
Were your windows of the flat, were any of them still open?
The ones that were open from before would have been left open.
So that's the kitchen window and then the bedroom windows.
Yes.
Now, you told us that you had to take your daughter to a living room window to get her air. And
Yeah.
get her. Do you remember if at that time there were any windows open in the living room?
No, but I would have left that window open because I knew now that the house would have probably been maybe filling up with smoke. So I remember that window was quite wide and I'd just left it like that.
And was that in an attempt to try and clear the smoke?
Yes.
At this time, had you seen any signs of smoke or fire outside the building?
No.
Can we go back to your statement, please? Let's look at page 7, IWS 852, page 7. Can we please expand paragraph 25 at the bottom? You begin by saying that your partner and yourself began to make efforts to stop smoke coming into the flat, and you describe using blankets up to the frame of the front door. And he was filling a kitchen basin with water and throwing it onto the blankets. Were those steps successful?
They were successful, but I just remember thinking, like, how long am I going to keep doing this for? Because once I moved, so I think there was something at the top of the door frame. The door frame was at the top, right at the top. I remember putting a blanket at the top, then trying to hold a blanket along the bottom whilst trying to block the letterbox, like the smoke coming from the letterbox. And that one kept dropping, and then that one would drop, and then once I'm holding these two, I'd see smoke again coming from the top, and I'd try and hold the top one. So it was quite hard.
And how effective was it in terms of stopping smoke getting in?
I tried. I mean, enough not to let. If I wasn't doing that, then smoke would have been just bellowing into the flat.
Mr. Chairman, I'm coming on to another topic on the night, but I wonder whether this would be a convenient time just to have a short break for the witness.
Could be, certainly. Would you like to have a little break now?
Yes, please.
Right, that's what we'll do then. 10 minutes, will that be all right?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, well, we'll break now until 10 past 12. 11, 10 past 11. And I have to ask you not to talk to anyone about your evidence while you're out of the room, please. If you go with the usher, she'll look after you. All right? Thank you. Right, 10 past 11, please. All right. Happy to
Yes,
carry on?
Thank you, yeah.
Good. Thank you. Yes, Mr.
Thank you, sir. Could we please have IWS 852, page 8, please, and expand paragraphs 27 to 29. Ms. Oyewole, if I could pick it up, please, at paragraph 27. You say, as I was standing at the door, I could not hear anything except Sean walking around the flat. I then heard a deep voice from behind the front door and what sounded like radio feedback. I started to bang on the door to let whoever was on the other side of the door know that we were there and that there were people in our flat. It was firefighters. When you heard the firefighters outside and before you opened the front door, what were conditions like in the hallway of your home?
They were less, it wasn't as smoky as before because I'd been standing there for ages trying to block the smoke. So, and I think I'd done quite a decent job at stopping the smoke from coming in.
And do you remember, were the lights still on in your hallway?
Yes.
You say that in paragraph 28 that you opened the door and made a small gap, and one firefighter was able to come through that gap into your home. Were you able to tell how many firefighters were there at the door?
No.
Apart from the deep voice that you mentioned behind the door, did you hear any other voices at this time?
Can't remember.
And was this one firefighter the only firefighter to come into your home at this time?
Yes.
How far into the flat did he come? Did the firefighter come?
He came into the hallway.
As far as the turn that would lead you to the lounge, or just to where your bedroom door was?
Not even as far as the bedroom door, just behind the door, the front door.
If we look at paragraph 29, you say, when the firefighter came in, he told me there was a fire lower down the tower and that the fire brigade were dealing with putting it out. He saw the wet blankets around the frame of the door and told us to keep doing what you're doing. That meant to Sean and I that we were doing the right thing and that we were in the safest place we could be. The firefighter came did not tell us explicitly to stay or to leave. He did, however, tell us that more firefighters would come back. I understood this to mean that we were to stay in the flat. And just to try and get a little bit more detail about this conversation, where was your partner when this conversation happened?
He was there as well in the hallway.
And you've told us just a few moments ago how far the firefighter came into the flat. So whereabouts was this conversation taking place?
Just behind the door, the front door, just right at the beginning of the hallway.
Did the firefighter tell you anything about the extent of the fire lower down the tower?
No.
Did the firefighter tell you anything about the conditions in the communal area on your floor?
No.
And what about conditions in the stairwell? Did the firefighter mention anything about the stairwell?
No.
Do you remember if the firefighter asked how many people were in your flat?
Can't remember.
And did the firefighter have a mask on throughout?
Yes. No, not... I know he came in with a mask, but I don't know if he took it off. I'm not sure.
But do you remember now speaking to this firefighter whilst he or she was wearing a mask?
He had the mask on, but I know that when he came in, I think when he first came in, I remember it sounding quite muffled. Mm-hmm. So I don't know, he might have taken it off, maybe just a little bit. I don't know if they can remove it, but I think as the conversation went on, his voice got a bit clearer. So I don't know if it was still with the mask on or if he'd taken it off, I can't remember.
Is there anything else about the firefighter that sticks in your mind?
He was quite tall. He had a deep voice. I know that his fingers were very black, like very, a lot of soot and soot was on his fingers. That's all I remember.
Where was your daughter whilst you were having this conversation?
In our bedroom.
Was your bedroom door open or closed?
It'd be wide open.
So if someone's standing in the hall, just so we can play, if someone's standing by the front door, can they see into your bedroom?
Directly into the bedroom.
And where was your daughter placed in the bedroom?
She would have probably been on the bed or maybe wandering around the bedroom.
And if you're standing by the front door and looking in through the open door of your bedroom, can you see the bed?
Yes.
Did the firefighter specifically ask if you had a child in the flat?
I can't remember.
The firefighter then left, and if we look at the next paragraph in your statement on this page, if we just look at the beginnings of paragraph 30, which is at the bottom of the page. One of the things you mention here, and we'll come back to it, is that your partner had begun to make a makeshift rope. Is that right?
Yes.
I'll ask you questions about that in due course, but can I just pick up something that you say in this paragraph, is that you describe receiving a call from Hind, the daughter of your friend Aziza, who lived in, as you told us, in flat 126. And you asked about Aziza, and Hind told you that Aziza was out of the tower. Did Hind tell you where she was herself?
No, but I presumed that she was outside around where the tower was with her mum.
Did she tell you if she'd been inside the tower when the fire started?
No.
Sorry, just to clarify, is that no?
Sorry, no, she didn't know. She didn't tell me where she'd been. We didn't speak about that.
Okay, could we look, please, on the next page, page 8, and let's look at paragraphs 31 down to 34, please.
Page 9.
Sorry, page 9, I apologise. If we focus on paragraph 31, please. What you explain, and this is in the second sentence, that you lost track of time during the evening of the fire, so it's tough to estimate what time this was all happening. At what I think may have been around 2 a.m, I heard another noise outside the door, similar to when the firefighters had come to the door before. And what you explain was that this time 2 firefighters came to your door. Can you say with any confidence how much time had passed between the first firefighter leaving your flat and now 2 more appearing at the front door?
No, I can't. I can't be sure.
Did it feel like seconds or minutes?
Oh no, it felt like quite a while after.
Before we get to the conversation that you had with these 2 firefighters, can you tell us what conditions were like in your flat by this time?
There was no smoke inside the flat at this time. Once the firefighter had left, obviously when he came in, there was smoke that came into the flat, but that's why I just wedged it a little bit. Once he'd left, when he exited, a little bit of smoke would have come in again, but then I just carried on doing what I was doing before, trying to block the smoke out, so there would have been no smoke in the flat.
And at this time, the lights in your flat were still working?
Yeah, they were.
And obviously, you've been focused on the front door, but can we just be sure there was no smoke coming in through any other windows in the flat?
No.
What you say in its paragraph 31 is that there were 2 firefighters. They both came into the flat and stood in the corridor. again, so we can go back to your plan if you want, in the plan if you want to look at it. But can you remember how far they came into the flat?
They didn't really, they just stood just where the other guy came. They didn't come really deep into the flat and look around or anything like that, as far as I can remember.
So by reference to the front door, where were they standing?
In the first little space in the hallway,
And so from that little space in the hallway, what would they have a view of?
the bedroom,
And that's your bedroom.
our bedroom.
Can you remember if they were wearing masks or not?
Yeah, they definitely were wearing masks.
Did either firefighter take the mask off?
I can't remember.
The one thing that you mentioned in your statement about the firefighter who'd come earlier was that he had a very deep voice. Did either of these two firefighters sound like the one that had come previously?
I can't remember.
So you now have two firefighters come to your flat and they've come inside the flat. Did they ask how many people were still in the flat?
Sorry, I can't remember.
And where was your daughter at this time?
She would have still been in the bedroom because we tried to keep her where we could see her. So instead of having her sort of moving around the flat.
And when they came into the corridor, just so that we can be clear, where were you and your partner?
In the corridor as well. In the hallway.
Where the firefighters were?
Yes.
Now, if we look at paragraph 31, you say they told Sean and I that our flat was the safest flat on the floor because the other half of the building was on fire. Did they say anything more specific about the flats on your floor?
No, they didn't.
So did they mention any flats by number at all?
No, they didn't.
You continue, as a result, they wanted to bring some of our neighbours into our flat where they would be safer. And you say that you agreed to that. The firefighters left to get our neighbours. And then what happened was that if we look at paragraphs 32 to 34, you describe there, you identify your neighbours as they were brought into your property. Did the firefighters tell you what would happen to you and your neighbours once everyone was gathered in your flat?
No, they didn't.
When you opened the door to these firefighters, did you get any sense of what the conditions were like in the communal area?
It was very smoky, probably worse than the first time when we tried to escape. I couldn't see anything. I could see a person, like an image, walking from nowhere, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So was it like the shape of a person you could make out?
Then they'd come into the flat where there was light, then I could see who it was.
Was that one of the firefighters?
I don't recall the firefighters coming first. Not the first person into the flat, no.
I follow. I think it was the way I phrased my question. So when the door opened, you could see smoke in the communal area.
Yeah.
And then a shape would come out from the smoke.
Yeah.
Did you have can you tell us anything about whether there was any lighting in the communal area at this time?
There definitely wasn't, no.
I want to ask you some questions about your neighbours in a moment. But to summarise, what you say in your statement is that they came into your flat in the following order. So first Omar and Muhammad Al-Hajj Ali, then Zainab Dean and her son, and finally Dennis Murphy. Just so that we can be clear about the sequence, did they come in as one group or in batches?
No, they came in as a group.
So I didn't quite catch your...
They came in as a group.
So all
As a
together...
group, did you say?
Yes.
And when they came into your flat, were you aware of any firefighters with them?
There would have been someone who ushered them in. There definitely was a firefighter who ushered them in, yes. Or I don't think the person was in front of them, that the person came at the end.
And did you have a clear view of that person at all?
The firefighter?
Yes.
Yes.
And that person was in the communal area?
Was in my hallway.
Right. So, just so that we can be clear, a firefighter came into your hallway and then ushered your neighbours into your flat, is that right?
Yeah.
Are you able to tell whether that was one of the two firefighters that had come earlier to
No,
ask?
I can't tell.
And can you give us any description about that firefighter?
No.
Was that someone who was wearing a mask?
They were wearing a mask and just wearing fireman's clothes.
Could we look, please, at page 10 of your statement and just look at paragraph 35. In this paragraph, you're speaking about the brothers Omar and Muhammad al-Hajali. Can you just describe to us what condition that they were in when they arrived in your flat?
They just walked in like, what's going on? Like, you just look at someone, it's like, wow, what's going on sort of thing. And then they just walked in, really. They seemed quite panicky, not frantic, but it was kind of like, like, wow, like what's happening? Because I don't know what they'd seen in their flat, but that's the impression that I got when they walked in.
Did they, either of them, tell you anything about conditions in their flat?
No.
Where did they go in your flat?
I'm not sure where Mohammed went straight away, but when everyone walked in, everyone sort of just dispersed around the flat. And then I know that Omar went to the kitchen and he told me to follow him. He went into the kitchen, I don't know what he was doing there, and then he came and called me to follow him he wanted to show me something in the kitchen.
And what was it that he wanted to show you?
He wanted to show me, he looked out of the window and said that there was smoke. He could see smoke coming from the back of the building.
And were you able to see smoke as well?
Yes.
And can you describe that smoke at all?
It's very thick, very dense. It's just quite thick smoke, like a lot of it, like going upwards.
Was it below or above you, the smoke?
Above us.
And if you're looking out of the kitchen window, was it to your left or to your right?
To our right, but like it was like around the back of the building.
So around the corner?
Yes.
What about Zainab and her son? Can you remember where they went in your flat?
No.
And what condition were Zainab and her son when they came into your flat? What condition were they in?
Zainab was quite frantic. She was quite frantic.
Do you remember having to put her son anywhere in particular, or
I carried her son and I put him on my bed.
was that where your daughter was?
Yeah.
Would you like a break?
No.
If we could look, please, at the next paragraph on the same page. What you say in that paragraph was that Zainab was on the phone a lot that evening. Can you remember who she was calling?
No, I don't remember. I remember asking her who she's talking to, but I can't remember what she said.
Another neighbour that was also brought into your property was Dennis Murphy. Can you tell us what condition Mr. Murphy was in when he arrived in your flat?
I didn't recognise him. I didn't recognise Dennis when he walked in.
Did he, was he able to speak to you?
He didn't speak.
Was he able to move without assistance?
Yes.
Do you remember if he had his mobile with him?
Yeah, he had a phone.
And do you remember if he received any calls at all whilst he was in your flat?
Not when he was in our flat, no.
And you've told us that everyone then dispersed around the flat.
Yeah.
Can you remember where Dennis Murphy went when he arrived in your?
Dennis was in the front room, living room.
Now, what's happened is that we've now had 2 firefighters come to your door, make a request. They then come back, or your neighbours have then come into your flat. By now, you've already told us that how the conditions in your flat had improved, but by now, you've now got 8 people in the flat. What were conditions like in your flat?
The conditions were fine. There was no smoke in the flat.
We look at page 11, IWSH 52, page 11, please. And can we expand paragraphs 41 and 42, please? What you said is this is a occasion when firefighters come back. You say I didn't answer the door on that occasion. I think it was either Omar or Sean that answered the door. 2 firefighters came into the flat whilst I was in the bedroom with Zainab, Mohammed and the children. So do you have a clear memory of was this your bedroom that you were in?
Yeah, my bedroom.
And was the bedroom door open?
Yes.
And do you have a clear memory of being in there with Zainab, Mohammed and the 2 children?
At that time, yes.
And you say that it was either Omar or Sean that answered the door, but can you remember where they were?
No.
So it was all you could say. It must have been one of them that answered the door.
Yeah, I think it'd be one of them.
And where was Dennis at the time?
Dennis was in the living room.
What you say in this paragraph, paragraph 41, is that the 2 firefighters came into the room. Can you say, and please tell me if you can't, but how much time had passed between the arrival of your neighbours into your flat and these firefighters then coming back into your property?
I don't think it was that long. Not long at all. Not as long as the other times.
Is it a time that you can measure in seconds or minutes?
Minutes.
Are we talking less than 5 minutes or more than 5 minutes? Or?
I can't remember.
You mentioned 2 firefighters. Just so that we can be clear, were these, is it your recollection that these were the same 2 firefighters that had come to your flat earlier?
I can't be sure.
So it was just 2 people dressed as firefighters. Do you remember them having masks?
Yeah, they would have had masks.
So from where you were in the bedroom, you would have a view of these 2 firefighters, is that right?
Yes.
And again, how far into the flat did these firefighters come?
I know that I took one of them to the kitchen, to show him the smoke, like how Omar told me about the smoke in the kitchen. So I said to one of them, "Can you follow me?" And I wanted to show him something. And I took him to the window and I said, "Look, there's smoke coming from the back." And he just said, "Oh, okay." Can't remember. It might have said something, some other stuff, but I just remember him acknowledging what I'd said.
Okay, well, let's break that down a little, please. What you say is that I heard all go into that room and could see just outside of the door that the firefighter was pointing at the bedroom we were in. And before that happened, did you take the firefighter to the kitchen before or after he told you to go into the bedroom?
Before.
And did you take when you took the firefighter to the kitchen, was the lounge door open at all? Do you remember?
I can't remember. Possibly.
So you tell us that you took the firefighter into the kitchen and showed him the smoke that you'd seen earlier. Did he give you any advice in relation to what to do?
No, I think that was when they just said go into the bedroom.
And so, well, if we go back to paragraph 41 and look at what you were told, they told us to all stay in the room and to put something under the door to stop smoke getting in. They said they were going to come back. So, what you then say is that the firefighters then left. If we look at paragraph 42, please. When they left, I immediately thought about Dennis. I went to the living room where he'd remained since I'd cleaned his face, and I told him he needed to come into the bedroom with the rest of us. I walked with him arm in arm as he was hunched over into the bedroom. He was very hesitant to come into the bedroom at first, hovering by the door and reluctant to come in. When he eventually came in after some encouragement from Sean and I, he did come in, but he stood awkwardly just inside the door. I implored him to sit on the bed with the rest of us, and when he did, he sat on the very edge of the bed. So you describe moving Dennis into the bedroom. By then, who was in the bedroom once the firefighters had left?
All of us were in the bedroom.
So that's all 8 of you. Can I look now, please, at LFB 50359, page 1, please. This is the transcript of a second call that has been linked to you, Miss Oyewole. If we expand again the event part of it, again you see the reference at the top, and the penultimate set of digits is 023149. So that tells us that the time on the transcript is 2:31 and 49. If we go to page 2, please. If we expand the bottom part from the operator saying, "I know what floor are you on?" So the operator asks, "What floor are you on?" gets the response, 14th floor. And operator says, "You're on the 14th floor. Okay, are you?" And the caller then says, "There's another fire on the top. There's not now a fire on the top." Operator asks, "What? At the top of the building or the top of your flat?" And the caller says, the top of my flat, top of my flat. Do you have a recollection of this conversation?
Slightly.
Do you remember being aware of a fire at the top of your flat?
Yes.
And when you were referring to the top of the flat, what were you meaning?
I was talking about the top of the window in our bedroom.
Sorry, I didn't quite catch what.
The window in our bedroom, when I looked out of the window, I could see fire. That's the first time I personally saw any fire. And I could see the fire at the top of the window. So probably coming from the flat above, like it was coming down towards my window.
Could you see flames?
Yeah.
And how close were those flames to your bedroom window?
Like if I sat on the windowsill, I could probably reach out and touch it.
I want to just take you to page 3 of this transcript. Again, if we could just expand the bottom half from where the operator says, hello, what has it come through to your flat? So that's what the operator asks and gets the response, it's coming into our flat, yeah. Does that help you at all to tell us what was coming into your flat at this time?
I felt like the fire was coming in to our flat because it was it was like it was just about to come into our window. That's how I felt, that's what I could see.
But there wasn't actually, was there actually anything coming into the flat at that time?
No.
The operator then asks, okay, you're not able to get out at all? And the caller then says, no, they told us to stay inside. There's an inaudible, but now we can see fire at the top. Operator says, yeah, are you able to get in your flat away from where the fire in the other flat is, the side of your flat away from? Caller responds, no, we can't, because it's just going to come into our flat. That's what's going to happen. Go to the next page. The operator says, well, and then the caller, some inaudible, but the caller says, jump out of the window, over speaking, jump out of the window. The operator then says, I mean, if you can leave, then try and do that. And the caller asks, shall we jump out the window? And the operator then says, otherwise just block up the exits and open any windows that isn't the side where the smoke is. And then it appears that as we can see from the bottom, that the call clears. But the reference to jumping out of the window, is that something that you remember?
Yeah, but it wasn't in that context.
Well, let's see if we can help you with that and go to page 11 of your statement. Paragraph 44, please. What you say at the bottom was, it became apparent to us that the firefighters were less likely than ever to come back and save us. It was then that Sean told me he was going to try and use the rope to scale down the building. Can you just tell us how your partner had fashioned this rope? What did he use to put it together?
While I was putting the cloth around the door, trying to stop the smoke from coming in, Sean had just opened up our airing cupboard, and all the blankets or bedding that he could see, I remember just watching him tying sheets together, and then he'd wrapped it around. When Omar and his brother came in, when we were all in the bedroom, they had broken off one of the windows, taking the window off its hinges, so there was a big gap. And then Sean had tied the rope around the middle of the window that holds the two windows. Does that make sense? Yeah. And then he'd thrown it down. So that was the rope.
Well, can I pause there? I have some more questions about that topic. But, Mr. Chairman, could I just ask for a short break at this point, please?
Yes. All right. Well, it might be a good idea to have a short break now. Is that all right?
Yeah.
If you go with the usher, she'll look after you. And again, please don't talk to anyone about your evidence. Right? We're back at 12 o'clock, please. Thank you. Right, 12 o'clock, please. All right, you have to carry on.
Yeah.
So look, if you would like a break at any stage, don't hesitate to say so.
Okay.
All right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, Mr. Howard.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Oyewole, before we had the break, you were beginning to tell us about the rope that your partner had fashioned and was using. And I think the stage we got to was that you'd explained that it had been tied to the frame of the bedroom window, and Omar Mohammed had helped break open part of the window. Is that right?
Yeah.
You've dealt with this in detail in your statements, and so with no disrespect to you, I'd like, if I may, just to try and take it shortly and just so that we can get the key events down. Once that rope had been tied and the window opened up in the fashion that you described, is it right that your partner then moved to sit on the windowsill?
Yes.
And at that time, where was everyone who was in the flat? Were they all in the same room?
Yeah, everyone was in the bedroom.
And we can go back to the plan if it will help, but that's your bedroom?
My bedroom, yeah.
When I showed you the transcript of your second 999 call, you gave evidence about seeing flames above you, above the bedroom window and nearby. The stage we're at now is that your partner is sat on the windowsill. Can you remember whether there were any flames around at that time?
No, so he was sat at the windowsill earlier on, before I looked out of the window. I'd say I don't know how long before, but it was quite a while before I'd looked out of the window and seen the flames at the top.
So, just so that we can be clear about the sequence time-wise, the events that we're talking about now, which is your partner sitting on the windowsill, happened before that second call.
Yes.
Can we just take a look at paragraph 50 of your statement? It's at page 13, please. If we could expand paragraph 50. So I think you've just told us that at this time everyone's in the bedroom, and what you say in this paragraph was that Zainab kept getting up and opening the bedroom door. She did that 3 or 4 times. She thought that she could hear people that had come back to help us. There was a lot of smoke in the flat outside the bedroom door at this time. I was shouting at her, she was opening the door, and I was saying, "Don't open the door, don't open the door." She was letting smoke come into the room we were in. We put a cloth under the door, whatever was to hand. There was nobody there every time she opened the door. And you described Zainab as very scared and that you had to get forceful with her. The bedroom that you could see in the flat outside the bedroom door, sorry, I'm going to put that again, the smoke that you could see outside the bedroom door, can you describe that smoke?
It wasn't like really smoky like how it was in the communal area, but there was smoke because no one was standing by the door and putting anything to block the smoke from coming into the door. So, you know, wisps of smoke was coming into the corridor.
And the door that you're referring to there is the front door?
The front door.
So when Zainab opened the door, were you able to get a view of the front door?
I wasn't really looking at it, no.
But was that where you thought the smoke was coming in
Yes.
from? By this time, had you closed any of the windows in the living room or the kitchen? Do you remember?
No.
So were there still some windows open in the
There would
flat?
still be windows open, yeah.
Can you remember where those open windows might have been?
The kitchen window, as from before, and the one in the front room that I opened, that would have been it. And then the one in the bedroom, obviously.
Were there lights on in your hallway at that time?
Yes.
And what about the lights in the bedroom?
Yes.
If we look now, just expand please at paragraphs 51 and 52, please. I won't read them out, but just to summarise them for you, what you explain in these two paragraphs is that after 15 minutes after your partner had first sat on the windowsill, he made his first attempt to lower himself down. And you say he told us all that he was going to go out of the window again. When he said this and made this attempt, what was the reaction of everyone else in the bedroom?
Everyone was like, don't do it. Like, not to be fair, it was only, I'd say, Omar and Mohammed and myself that probably would have commented. And I just kept saying, you know, Sean, don't, like, we're not going, because I had absolutely no intention of going through the window. Like, no intention. So, although he wasn't like saying, I'm going to definitely go now, he was just trying to see how much his weight could take the rope, the makeshift rope. That's why he lowered himself out. But then even Omar and Mohammed were both like, no, you know, don't do it. What are you doing? Like, what's he doing? Sort of thing.
What was Dennis doing at this time?
Dennis was on the bed. He was just sitting on the bed.
And what about Zainab?
Zainab was on the floor.
What you say in paragraph 52 is that your partner then asked you to pass your daughter to him, and she was unwilling to be passed to her father. Is that right?
Yeah.
Did you see how far down the rope went? Did you get a view yourself of how far down the building the rope went?
Yeah, it went quite far down.
Did you get a sense that it was relatively close to the ground?
No, definitely not. It wasn't close to the ground.
You tell us, if we look at paragraph 53, if we pick it up at the bottom of the page, please, we'll need to go over, but that Sean, because your daughter wouldn't let you go, your partner had to come back into the flat. Can you tell us how he got back into the flat at this time?
Omar and Mohammed helped him back into the flat.
If we look at paragraph 54 on the next page, and if we take 54 and 55 together, what you explained in these paragraphs is that you decided that to tie your daughter to your partner's back, and you got a wrapper, a cloth, which you found in the bedroom, so that you could tie her as tightly to her father's back as you could. And that was, you say, if we look at paragraph 55, with the intention of going out of the window as soon as possible. I discussed it with Sean. So you told us a few moments ago you had no intention of going back out of the window. What had changed by now?
I would say it was a mixture of wanting to prepare ourselves, and time was just going. Like, it just felt like we had gone to the window, we had screamed and shouted. There were firemen downstairs. They were not even looking up at us. There were loads of them downstairs. All you could hear from that side of the building was us shouting, and no one was looking up. So in my head, I just lost hope at that point. I just thought, they've said they're going to come back, but no one's even acknowledging the fact that we're shouting from a window, even saying there's 2 children in the house, you know, we need to get out, there's 8 of us in here. I think that with a mixture of the time that we'd been locked in that room made me start thinking I need to start taking other steps or preparing ourselves, like I said.
And just so that we can be clear, which window had you been shouting from?
The bedroom window.
And who was shouting from that window?
Myself, Sean. I'm not sure if Omar and Mohammed were shouting. I can't remember, but I know for a fact that Sean and I were shouting out the window a lot.
Can we look, please, at paragraph 56 down to 58? Now, you've just explained why you changed your mind. Did you or Sean tell anyone else in the bedroom what you were planning to do?
Sean was saying it to everyone that was there. He was just saying, you know, if we have to go, sort of showing me how I would, like, motion, you know, get my hand movements ready to go down the rope. But he kept on saying, because I kept on saying, no, I'm not going down that way. Even once, because my daughter was tied to his back. You know, I'm saying I don't want to, we're not going that way, but he just kept on saying, if we have to. But he said it like so everybody in the room could hear. He wasn't sort of whispering it to me or anything like that.
If we just look at paragraph 57, what you say there is, I said to Sean, let's go. We were going out of the window. Now, at that time, when you'd made that decision, who else was in the bedroom?
Everyone.
And do you remember anyone leaving the bedroom at about this time?
No.
Do you remember the bedroom door opening at all, other than when Zainab was opening it?
No.
Can we just... is it possible to put the 2 parts of paragraph 58 side by side, please? Thank you very much. What you say, and we'll take it in stages if we may, is sorry, before I take you to paragraph 58, can I go back to paragraph 56? I just want to pick up on one point. '56, please, on page 14. Sorry. What you've said, Miss Oyewole, in this part of the paragraph is, I went to the window to see where I was going to have to go. When I looked out of the window, I saw a flash of flame above us. It was bright orange in colour and very close. I felt as I could almost reach out and touch it. I said to Sean, this place is going to explode. We had to get out, and we were going to get out of the window and try to descend the building with Sean's homemade rope. When you refer to a flash of flame, can you tell us any more information about that, please?
I just thought that was the first time I had seen fire. I know that there was a fire in the building. I'd seen smoke before that. I'd seen smoke in the corridor. I'd seen it outside the kitchen window, but I'd never physically seen any fire. And it was just like in a movie almost, like something I just didn't expect to see. I just saw this woof of flame, like a massive flame, coming towards me because I was looking at it.
And this was from the bedroom window? From
the bedroom window. I don't know what made me look up. I was looking down to see how far I'd have to go, and something just said, look up, and that's when I saw...
And by that time, Was the bedroom window open?
Yeah, it was open from when they'd broken it open.
And had Sean been pulled back in after sitting on the trying to lower himself down?
Yes, that happened before, and I saw the flame after.
I showed you that transcript of the 999 call a while ago. Can you link this paragraph to that 999 call at all?
Yeah, I'm probably guessing that as soon as I'd seen that flame, that I'd probably called them. Couldn't remember it at the time, but then that makes sense.
So do you think where we looked at that, and we can look at the transcript again, but where you were referring to fire at the top of my flat, do you think that's a reference to what you say in this paragraph?
Yes.
Let's go back then, please, to paragraph 58, page 14. Thank you. You begin the paragraphs just as we were preparing to climb out of the window, the bedroom door flew open. Everyone looked up, shocked that anyone had come back. 2 firefighters ran into the room, followed by a cloud of thick black smoke. Before the bedroom door flew open, did you hear any noises outside the bedroom door?
Nothing at all.
And you say everyone looked up, shocked that anyone had come back. Who do you mean by everyone?
All of us that were in the room.
Were the lights on in the bedroom at that time?
Yes.
When you say the firefighters ran into the room, is that the bedroom?
Sorry, that firefighter didn't run into the room.
Right, or can you tell us what your recollection is of what the firefighters did, please?
My recollection is that the door flew open. I don't know who opened the door. And I saw a firefighter standing by the front door, and I just heard him shouting. So I don't recall a firefighter coming into the bedroom as such, unless that happened. That's not what I remember.
Mm-hmm.
So just so that we can be clear, it shouldn't say in paragraph 58, 2 firefighters ran into the room. Your recollection is of the bedroom door opening, and you're seeing a firefighter by the front door. Is that
Yeah.
right? Will you refer there to 2 firefighters, just so that we can be clear? How many firefighters do you remember seeing?
I saw one firefighter.
The firefighter that was by the front door, can you say whether the front door was open or closed?
Our front doors are the type of front doors that you cannot lock yourself out with. So if I close the door and go and throw rubbish away, I can let myself back inside my front door without using the key. And I'm 100% sure of that, because I remember on an occasion being inside my flat, coming home from work one day, being inside the flat, and another neighbour, accidentally coming into my house, thinking that was his house. And the door was open, and that's how he was able to enter, because it doesn't lock from the outside. So the door was definitely open.
Can you say how the firefighters had got in through your front door then?
I believe that they opened the door themselves, because I don't recall seeing anyone run out of the bedroom to go and open the front door. Being that it was my flat, I think I would be the one to go and do that, if I'd heard that.
But before the bedroom door opened, you hadn't heard any noise at all, is that right?
Nothing, no.
So had you heard any voices outside the bedroom door?
No,
Had you heard any knocking at all?
no.
And so the bedroom door opened, and there's a firefighter. Can you describe that firefighter at all?
No, I can't remember what he looks like.
Was it a tall person or a short person?
I can't remember.
Can you remember whether that person was wearing a mask or not?
I can't remember.
And you say that everyone was in the bedroom. Can you give us a clearer idea of where everyone was in the bedroom at this time?
Okay, so you have my bedroom and you have the bed in the middle of the bedroom. So you have space on both sides. So you have Zainab that was sat by the door on the floor. Jeremiah and my daughter were sat on the bed. And from what I remember, Omar and Mohammed were sat on the other side of the bed, and Dennis was sat on this side of the bed. So Dennis was sat almost facing the door, the front door. Does that make sense? Myself, Shaun, and my daughter was standing up. We were definitely not sat down.
So if one's looking into the room, were you, Shaun, and your daughter on the right side of the bed or the left side of the bed?
The left side of the bed.
And you say Zainab was on, you remember, was Zainab's son was on the bed, is that right?
Yeah.
So of Dennis, Omar, Mohammed, who was closest to the door?
Dennis was closest to the door.
You say there was a cloud of thick black smoke. Do you still remember thick black smoke?
Yeah, I remember smoke. Not enough not to see who was in the corridor, but I definitely remember there being smoke coming into the corridor because the door had been opened now, like wide open.
And where was that smoke coming into your home from?
From the communal area.
Aside from could you see anything beyond the firefighter that was now by the front door?
No.
Could you hear any other voices behind that firefighter?
Yes, I believe there were people in the corridor, in the communal area.
If we look at that paragraph 58 and the sentence that firefighters seemed more panicked and worried than they were before, in light of what you just told us about seeing just one firefighter, is that a sentence that needs changing at all?
The firefighter seemed more panicked.
And you then say, they said something like, let's go, time to go, or run. So again, do you now have a recollection that it was one person that said something like, let's go, time to go, or run?
Yes.
Can you remember anything about the voice that person had?
I just remember it was quite heightened, it was quite panicky, and it was almost like, come now, if you don't come then, you know, it's like, it was very panicky.
And you say, well, could you tell from the voice whether it was a male firefighter or a female firefighter?
It was a male firefighter.
And the firefighter said something like, let's go, time to go, or run. Thinking about it today, do you have a clearer recollection of what exactly the firefighter said to you?
No, I just heard something, but I knew that it was something that meant just you need to get out now.
And were the words that were used, was it very, very brief what the firefighter said?
Short sentences, like short, yeah, like 2 words that go, get out, or run, or something along those lines.
Did the firefighter say anything else that you remember?
No,
Do you remember the firefighter asking any questions at all?
nothing at all.
From where you were sat in the bedroom looking out, did you have any sense of the conditions in the communal hallway at this time?
No, I didn't have any senses. In my mind, I just presumed that if they were now telling us to go through the communal area, that the smoke must have been, they would have cleared it up. That's what I presumed, that, it must be clear now. Not completely gone, but clear enough for us to go out that way. Clearer than it would have been from when we'd seen it the first 2 times, or every time that a fireman had come to the door and opened the door.
Were you aware of any lights in the communal area?
There were no lights on the communal area.
I'm going to go on a minute and show you part of your statement where you tell us what happened next to you and your family, but did you ask the firefighter anything?
No,
Do you remember hearing anybody else in the room ask the firefighter anything?
no,
Do you remember anyone in the room having any kind of conversation with that firefighter?
no.
Let's go to paragraphs 59 on page 15, please. And just expand down from 59 to 62. If we pick it up, please, at 59, that's the first sentence. You say, as soon as I heard that, and that's you referred to in paragraph 58, your recollection of what the firefighter said. Everyone else in the room blanked out into obscurity. And you describe then turning to Sean, grabbing his left hand with your right hand, and we ran. And you say that in 61, that you ran out of your home for the last time, and in the rush to leave, you'd not put shoes on, you ran out of flat barefoot in your dressing gown. And if we pick it up at 62, as soon as we left, I was hit with a wall of acrid black smoke. So much worse than before. It was thicker and it felt more invasive. So your daughter's strapped to her father's back. You're holding hands with your partner. And what was it? Can you just take us through what you then did when you started running out of your flat?
I just ran from the bedroom to the corridor, and I ran past the fire officer, past the fireman, and I remember there was smoke sort of coming in from, the door was open wide, so I know there was smoke coming in to the hallway, and I just thought, everything happened so quick that the first thing that came to my head was just take a deep breath. I don't know how long I thought I'd be able to hold the breath for, but I just thought, just take a deep breath before you go out so that you don't have to inhale that much smoke. But then the reason why I said the smoke was worse than before is because as soon as I took that deep breath, I took it just before I'd stepped out. But there was no point in taking that deep breath because the smoke just went through my body. So I knew then that it was way worse than the first time or the second time or any of the other times when the door had been open. And I ran past the fireman holding Sean in my arm, and then I just made it into the communal area.
The fireman that you ran past, just so that we can be clear, is that the fireman that you'd seen by the front door?
I can't remember. I know that I'd run past him, yes, but I can't remember. I think there may have been someone else outside the front door, but I can't remember.
Once you were in the communal area, could you see anything at all?
Nothing.
And was it just... So how did you make your way to the stairwell?
Well, so I was in front of Sean, and I was holding him, we were holding each other, sorry, and I had a hand free, so I ran out, and then they'd recently built this thing in the corridors, like in the communal area, which was, it comes out at you, but I think I forgot that was there, so I just immediately just sort of ran towards it, and I started thinking that was the wall. In my head, that was the wall, and I know where the fire exit is because I know I've been into the stairs on countless occasions, but just because you couldn't see anything, as I was feeling, I realised that I was going towards the chute, and then I had to feel my way back towards towards the fire exit. Then when I got to the fire exit, I was still feeling around, and my hand just touched like a body, which I presume now obviously to be one of the firemen. And when I touched him, I sort of felt an open space, so I just presumed that was the door, and I just went through the door.
So the stairwell door was open by that time, was it? You don't
Yes.
recall having to push it open or
No,
pull it open?
I believe he was holding it open.
If we then go on the same page, please, to paragraph 64. This is now where you're now in the stairwell, and so yourself and your partner and your daughter are now in the stairwell, and you've come through that smoke. Had that smoke had any physical effect on you?
Yeah, it was choking, like I couldn't breathe, like I was disorientated, I couldn't see. It's like we were just running for our lives basically, but with no certainty of where we were, like if we were even going to make it out. But it was just, yeah, it was very, very, very black, it was just choking.
And you described in paragraph 64 that the stairwell, like the corridor, and when you're referring to the corridor, are you referring to the communal hallway?
Communal hallway.
Was absolutely sweltering. It was like walking into a furnace, relentless and unstoppable heat pounding at my face and my skin. Coupled with that was the smoke, all-consuming and stale-smelling smoke. So, just so that we can be clear, was there smoke in the stairwell as well?
Yes.
And can you describe what smoke you encountered in the stairwell, please?
It was the same smoke that was in the communal area. Exactly the same. But it was hot. It was just really, really hot. I don't think when we were in the communal area, I felt heat, but I think my mind was more focused on trying to escape. That I don't think I took the heat into consideration. And when we came out through the fire exit, I just remember feeling really hot, like so hot. And obviously coupled with that, I was wearing a dressing gown as well, like a woolly dressing gown. So yeah, it was really, really hot and very smoky, but the same smoke, I'd say, from the communal area.
What you then explained in your statement was that you started running down the stairwell. And is it right that it wasn't until a much lower floor that you saw any light?
Yes.
If we look, please, at page 16 and paragraph 68, please. After what felt like a lifetime in the dark, I saw a light. I now understand that it was somewhere around the third floor. It was like seeing a light from heaven. What do you base your understanding that it was somewhere around the third floor that you first saw a light?
I'd say, I just know it was it was right at the bottom. Like it was it was a couple of floors before you get to the main lift area. And I know that they had just built in, before there was nothing there. And I know they just built in some flats there. So that's why I thought it was between the first and the third floor.
If we look, in fact, at your paragraph 69 on the same page, please. What you say is there were 2 or 3 firefighters on the third floor. So picking that up, in your recollection, do you link seeing firefighters with there being light? Or do you think it became light before you saw any firefighters?
It was light before I saw firefighters.
As you were making your way down the stairwell, were you aware of anyone other than Sean coming down behind you?
Yeah, there was no one behind us. I felt there were things on the floor. But I didn't see anyone physically, and I couldn't see anyone. I couldn't even see Sean.
And we don't need to go through this, but it's right, isn't it, that when you got to the bottom, a firefighter took your daughter and brought her outside, and then you were given a hard hat, and then to go out through the main entrance. Is that right?
Yes.
Now, if we pick it up, please, at page 17 and paragraphs 71 to 73. You say, if we look at paragraph 72, that you saw someone at the triage. You were directed over to sit next to a tree looking up at the building from which we had just escaped. A firefighter brought 2 oxygen masks over to us. Sean and I shared one, and you gave your daughter the other. What you've described, Miss Oyewole, is coming out of your flat into a communal area of smoke and a stairwell of smoke. So, on immediate exit, or having exited the tower, can you describe what physical effect that had on you?
I mean, it was hard to breathe. Like, my nose was filled with soot, my throat was filled with soot, and I remember my body just naturally, like, I felt disgusting, but I was blowing my nose, and I even felt like people around me could see me, and in a way that was quite embarrassing, but I was blowing my nose, and as I blew, thick black soot was coming out of my nose. It was hard to breathe. I was disorientated. I felt weak. But at the same time, I was shocked to even be out.
And what about the effect on your daughter?
I thought my daughter was dead. Because if I'd taken in that smoke into my body, as big as I am, and as little as she is, she'd consume the same amount of smoke that I'd consumed. And hearing her on the stairs, on her dad's back, behind me, I could hear her taking what I felt like was her last breaths on the stairs. And obviously when we came out, she was just taken away. So she was in a bad way.
Can I just ask you a couple more questions about your time outside the tower? We know from your statement that you were taken to hospital. At any time before you were taken to hospital, were you asked by either firefighters, police officers or paramedics which floor or flat you had come from?
I think we might have been asked when we came out when we got to the 3rd floor.
And can you remember who asked you?
It would have been the firefighters that were on that floor.
Do you recall either when you encountered the firefighters on the 3rd floor or when you were outside the tower speaking to a firefighter and telling them how many residents had been in flat 113?
No.
Mr. Chairman, those are all the questions I have, but could I ask for the usual short break just to check if there are any supplementary questions?
Yes, of course. Although Mr. Rawat thinks he's finished his questions, he needs an opportunity just to check that. So we're going to have another short break now, just to give him time to do that. So again, could you please not talk to anyone about your evidence when you're out of the room? And if you'd like to go with the usher now, we'll come back at 10 to 1 and see if there are any more questions. All right? All right, thank you very much. All right, 10 to 1, please. A few more questions, Mr. Rowett?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Yes. I think Mr. Rowett has a few more questions, not too many, I hope. All right.
Hopefully it won't take up too much time. My questions are directed towards the last time that a firefighter came to your home, just before you and your family left to go down the stairwell. Could I have, please, MET 3012593, page 12, please? And could we expand flat 3 in the southwest corner? Miss Oyewole, you may need to stand up and point things out on this plan, but I just want to try and understand firstly where everyone was when you saw this firefighter. So I think the bedroom which was your bedroom is the one that's furthest away from the lounge, is that right?
Yes.
And what you begin, and it's paragraph 58 that we're looking at, you say that the bedroom door opened. At that time, who was in the bedroom with you?
I understand that from my recollection, was all of us were in the bedroom because we were all told to stay in the bedroom.
And did the bedroom door open fully?
Yeah, it would have opened fully. Wouldn't have been. Yeah, it definitely opened fully. Yeah.
So from that, with that open door, were you able to get a view of your front door from the bedroom?
Yes.
And the firefighter.
I'm sorry,
yes.
I'm interested in this as well. Can you just point out which side the door was hinged?
The door opens out like this.
Sorry, get up now. So did the door open
From this side?
like that?
No, like this.
Like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, from here round to there?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And while we're doing this, could you just point out where your bed was?
So my bed was this direction, facing
so
this
long
way.
ways this way?
Yeah.
Yeah. About halfway along that wall?
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Sorry, Mr. Rowett, I'm taking over your
thanks.
question.
No, thanks. Just so that we can clarify for the transcript. Firstly, in terms of your bedroom door, it opens inwards into the room.
Yeah.
And it opens inwards to the right.
Yeah.
And so if you're standing outside the bedroom door and opening the door, it will open inwards to the right as you're looking in.
Yes.
And just for the transcript, can we just clarify where your bed was in relation to the window?
My bed was like this, facing that way, and the window was her.
So the head of your bed was against the wall that separates your bedroom from your daughter's bedroom.
Yes.
Now, you've told us, so with the bedroom door open, you could see through to the front door, is that right?
Yes.
Where was the firefighter that you saw?
At the front door, so in the hallway. He was stood there. This allows you to see into my bedroom, and the bed was there. Dennis was there. Can
I pause you there and just I'll just ask you one more question about, so the firefighter, again for the transcript, was the firefighter close to the front door?
Yeah, he was there.
And that was the only firefighter you could see, is that right?
Yes.
So how do you believe the bedroom door opened?
I don't know. Someone must have opened the bedroom door, or he opened the bedroom door. I don't know.
Do you have any recollection of someone in the bedroom opening the bedroom door?
No.
And you didn't see that firefighter at any time with his hand on the handle of the bedroom door?
I just remember the bedroom door just flew open. So I don't know. Someone must have opened it, but I can't remember who opened it. Whether it was him that came and opened it, or someone from the bedroom opened it. But I feel like if I was in the bedroom, I would have seen someone go to the door, but I can't remember.
Um, at that point, when the bedroom door opened, had any of the neighbours that were sheltering in your flat left the bedroom?
No.
So you've told us where your bed was. Can you just describe where you'll set out your recollection of where everybody was?
Like I said, that was the bed. Dennis was sat here. Jeremiah was on the bed by himself because my daughter was on her dad's back. We were by the window, myself, Sharon and Keziah, my daughter. And Omar Mohammed was sat around here on the bed. And Zainab would have been about around here.
So again, for the transcript, Dennis was at the top of the bed, closest to the wall between the two bedrooms,
Yeah.
but on the side of the bed that's closest to the bedroom door. Zainab was on the floor, but near to the bedroom door, but on the side opposite to where it opens.
Yeah.
Yourself, your partner, and your daughter were by the bedroom window.
Yeah.
And was she strapped to her father's back at that time?
Yes.
And where do you remember Omar and Muhammad?
I remember them being here.
So they were on the side of the bed that's closest to the window. So when you and Sean left the bedroom, which of your neighbours would you have had to go past?
When we left, I remember that people got up or started moving around the room because obviously we'd wanted to get out. We'd all wanted to go. So I know for a fact that the brothers got up and moved, and I believe that Zainab got up. From what I remember, her getting up. So we would have had to have gone past Zainab and Jeremiah on the bed. Sorry, and Dennis on the bed. Sorry. Because Dennis would have been there, so we would have had to have gone past all of those to get out. But the brothers were there.
But when you left, or as you were leaving the bedroom, were you aware of any of your neighbours being ahead of you?
No, no one was ahead of us.
So you were the first to leave the bedroom?
Actually, at that time, I wasn't sure. I don't want to say I was sure and I wasn't. But I would say we were the first to leave. From what I remember, but I might be wrong. I don't know.
Were you aware of where your neighbours were as you left your flat?
No, I just remember people had started getting up, sort of, because they'd come back to say go. So I know that people sort of got up. I can't say exactly where in the room people were at that time.
Were you aware of any of them being in any other parts of the flat?
I don't remember anyone being in any other part of our flat because I remember everyone being told to stay inside the bedroom. So I remember quite clearly that we were all inside the bedroom.
Thank you. Just one final matter from me, please. It's first of all to thank you for your detailed witness statement and also for the patience that you've shown in answering my questions today. And the final question I would like to ask you is there anything further about the events of that night, above what you've put in your written statement and above what you said today, and that you saw and heard on that night, which you think it's important for the chairman to know about?
I would like to say that I personally would like to thank the fireman that came back to the door. Whoever it was, the fireman that said, get out, go. I would like to thank him. I am grateful to him for coming back and doing that. However, my recollection of a lot of the other statements, that's not how I remember it happening. I would also like to say that for anyone to say that they do not regret what happened or will not change anything about what happened on that night. I know for a fact that I wasn't to blame, and I would definitely change certain things about what happened that night if I could. And I think it's quite a slap in the face for anyone to say that they wouldn't change anything about what happened that night, or they have no regrets about what happened that night. I would also like to say that we lost beautiful, beautiful, beautiful people that night. Innocent children. Everyone that passed away that night was innocent, and nobody deserved that. And if events might have happened, might have played out differently, then I probably wouldn't be sitting here today myself. So I just think the people that came back that night, or the firemen that came back that night, they were, on many occasions people came back. People had the chance to see how many people were brought into our flat. People had the chance to see the state of the people that were brought into our flat. And for there not to be any precautions taken into place and, the right equipment being given to people to come and get people out of our flat, I think if they did have the correct equipment, then I think that I personally think that the people that passed away in our flat possibly wouldn't have passed away. And that's what I'd like to say.
Well, thank you. And thank you once again for coming to give evidence today. It has been enormously helpful to us. Thank you.
And I'd like to add to that, I'm really grateful to you for coming along. It was obviously a terrifying experience, and one which has been very distressing, not just at the time, but I think quite distressing for you to come and describe to us today. But your evidence is really very valuable, and I'm really grateful to you for coming along to give it. So thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
All right. Well, now you're free to go. Would you like to go with the usher? She'll look after you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, Mr. Rowett, it's probably a convenient moment.
I would suggest so, Mr. Chairman.
Yes. Well, we'll break now for lunch and resume at 2:10 then, please. Thank you very much. 2:10.